BLS E-services, a digital service provider offering business correspondent services to major banks and assisted e-services and e-governance services at the grassroots level in India, has come out with its IPO. It's an over 300 crore IPO. It's open for subscription today and will close on the 1st of February. Shikhar Agarwal, the chairman and non-executive director at the company, is with us on the show to talk about the IPO KYC of this company. Shikhar, thank you very much for joining in. So first, let's dive into the company. You have three lines of business. The largest, which is 60% of your revenues, comes in from business correspondent. Then you have e-governance, and then you have a relatively smaller contribution, about 5-6%, coming in from assisted e-services. So tell us what you do for each.
So, Reema, basically this company, BLS E-services, is into service-oriented business. So what we do in all the three segments is, if you talk about the first segment, which is the business correspondent for major public sector and private sector banks within India. So if you talk about India, the main branches of the bank are not reaching the tier 2, tier 3 cities of India where there is semi-urban and rural population living. So through the banking business correspondent, we are one of the largest business correspondent for State Bank of India, which is a largest bank in India. We have upwards of 15,000 branches spread across different parts of India, wherein, basic services, if you understand from me, what will an applicant or a customer ask for? When they come to our branches, if they want to open a savings account, if they want to deposit money, withdraw money, do loan repayments, or different host variety of services that are being added on a monthly or a yearly basis, new services are being added. So that is essentially the business. Over there, they don't have any way to avail these services other than the providers that we are, in these geographies. So the business model is pretty simple. We provide all.
So you set up a shop or a store, and it's called what?
It's called the BLS Touchpoints.
Okay, a BLS Touchpoint.
Correct.
And in places where there is no bank branch, there is no ATM, and you will provide banking services.
Correct. So these are also now, because the bank branches are also so crowded. Recently, we've also started in semi-urban kind of urban areas. Mostly the business started in the rural part of the world, rural India. And now the banking transactions that we do, the revenue model that we have from there, it is pretty simple. We get fixed commissions per transaction from the bank. Also, we get interest on saving accounts, we get registration fees. So we are doing multiple transactions. We have around 4 lakh people coming to our centers every day doing these transactions. So model is pretty simple. And we started initially working with SBI. We acquired 2 companies in the last 2 years. In the in the last recent months, we have expanded into multiple banks like Bank of Baroda, Indian Overseas Bank, a lot of private sector banks like HDFC, Karur Vyasa Bank. So I see a big growth potential in our reach in different networks.
So you have a tie-up with how many banks now?
I would say upwards of 15 banks.
Nationalized and regional included?
Correct.
Got it. And is this your fastest growing segment? And even on an organic basis, because you've made acquisitions here, Starfin and ZMPL, Zero Mass Private Limited. So if you strip out the benefit of the acquisition, on an organic basis, what's the growth rate of this business?
See, we started this business in the year 2016. We started with one of the contracts in e-governance with one of the state governments. And over the years, we thought, let's get into the banking correspondent business. That's how we acquired a couple of companies. But other than the acquisition, there has been a steady growth rate. We've been growing. If you talk about with the acquisition, we've grown 150%. But I would say other than the acquisition also, there has been a healthy growth of the company. Going forward, we expect a healthy growth to continue from a couple of segments that I will talk about later. I can also give you a brief explanation about the e-governance segment.
Yeah. We'll come to that. Let me just complete the entire picture on business correspondence. So currently, the revenue contribution is about 66%. Right? And the organic revenue growth of this business would be 20%, 30%?
I think I've calculated the overall growth that we grew 100% compared to last year in 2023. I've not really calculated the organic numbers, but I think it would be more than 20% for sure, 20-30%.
20% plus, going up to that. And what are the margins, EBITDA and gross on this particular business?
So this particular business, we are doing around 14% EBITDA margins.
Okay.
As we grow as a company, as more products get added in the same centers, we expect the margins to grow in the near future. As you can see in our parent company, BLS International, the margins were also in these lines and they grew to 20-21%. Okay. We expect in the future years, the margins also to grow in this business.
And gross margins?
I think around the same.
So 14%?
Correct.
Okay. EBITDA and gross margins are similar, but they will increase with scale.
Correct.
Got it. And 60% of your revenues comes from State Bank of India. Is that a bit of concern?
No, actually, if you talk about the biggest bank in India, it is State Bank of India, the bank that more people recognize, most people in different parts of India. That's how we started. But I think if you see in the last few months, the kind of banks that we've started working for, a lot of public sector banks like Bank of Baroda, IOB or other banks, and private sector banks. So we are now looking at increasing revenue from other banks. So I see a big growth potential in changing our revenue mix.
And you said there are 15 banks which have empaneled you to provide the services. How many national, how many regional, how many private?
I need to check the exact numbers, but I think around 6-7 would be national banks, and private banks we just started in the last 7-8 months. So we've started working for HDFC, Karur Vyasa Bank and Kotak Bank.
Okay, interesting. And these stores are called BLS Touchpoints.
Correct.
I believe currently you have close to about 99,000 touchpoints?
Yes, we have upwards of 98,000 touchpoints spread across all the states and union territories of India.
And do you have an aspiration? How many touchpoints do you think this business will have in the next few years?
I think our aspiration is definitely to grow the touch points on a sustainable basis. We want every touch point to be profitable, and the kind of reach that we expect, definitely we want to expand the numbers by more than 20, 30, 40% in the coming years, because we see there are still many areas of the country that are unserved or not part of the financial inclusion. So we really want to get into those territories, provide different kind of services to those customers.
And would you look to bring down the dependence on State Bank of India?
See, as I've spoken, we have already started working with many other banks, many
large
PSUs,
banks like HDFC,
large banks,
Kotak.
HDFC, Kotak, many PSU banks. But definitely I feel that business from those banks will also grow. But I also expect business from our major bank, State Bank of India, also to grow in the coming years. Definitely revenue mix might change, but we would want to keep the major banks as major shareholders.
And State Bank has stake in BLS E-services?
So the company that we acquired, Zero Mass Limited, last year, State Bank has some stake in
6-7%.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so they have stake in ZMPL.
ZMPL, which is a part of which is a majority subsidiary, more than 95%, 97, whatever State Bank has. It is a subsidiary of BLS. It's part of BLS E-services.
And is there any contract between you and State Bank of India to acquire the balance stake that State Bank of India, which resides with SBI, or?
Right now there is no contract, but definitely everyone sees good growth potential in the company in the next few years. So all the shareholders, including State Bank of India.
Okay, so the next line of business I wanted to get to is e-governance, where you provide government to citizen services, like help with opening Aadhar cards, PAN cards, doing KYC, birth registration, even death registration, property registration. Tell us more about this business. I believe BLS E-services started with this e-governance segment in 2016.
Correct. So Reema, I think I would just like to give you a little bit explanation about BLS International, how we started this model. If you talk about BLS International, what we do essentially, we provide outsourcing services on behalf of government to a customer. So essentially, if an embassy wants visa to be outsourced, we open an office on their behalf. They cannot handle such big volume, so people come to us and we pass on the application to the government, take all the data and take all the fees, our service charge and the government fee. So we thought that same model could work within different states in India. If you talk about different states in India, there are a host variety of government services like Aadhar cards, birth certificates, arms license, driving license, which general public needs availment of, And right now, before we started, there was big lines at the government offices, government was not able to handle such big volume. So we came out with this model wherein we started with a particular state in India, wherein we open an office on behalf of the local MCD or municipality, where they are providing different citizen services, as I've explained you, birth certificate, arms license, all host variety of services. We bring them under a single interface. So we have people who come into our centers. When we bid for a tender, it's exclusive government tenders. We provide a service charge that we will charge from the customer for availment of their service right at their doorstep.
Because do you earn money from the government or only from the citizens?
From the citizens. So citizens pay us some service charge plus the government fee. The government fee is transferred to the government, and the convenience for the citizens is that now we have brought services to their doorstep. We are in Tier 2, Tier 3 cities, whereas earlier they had to travel all the way to Tier 1. So the model is essentially the same what we do in BLS International. Product is different, the volume is much higher here. So we have, as I've explained to you before, we have 4 lakh people that come to these big, 90,000+ centers every day. Some come for banking correspondent, some come for e-governance services. So, we started in e-governance, we provide different kind of services also, like land record registration. We are working in West Bengal for land record registration. We are working in UP for citizen services, Rajasthan for a project called E-Mitra, Karnataka, we do a project called Grama 1. So the model is pretty similar everywhere. We have offices, we have people, we charge from the customer upfront money, and we charge government fee, which we transfer to the government, and also we charge if customers want value-added services. Same thing that we do in BLS International when a customer is applying for visa. If he needs convenience services like courier, mobile biometric, premium lounge, insurances, SMS services. So model is pretty similar here, wherein customer is coming for the core service. They are paying a guaranteed service charge, but at the same time, there's an opportunity for us to offer them host variety of additional services that the customers need for their convenience.
And here again, all the citizens come to the Touchpoints, or is there something called a Seva Kendra?
So we have now, incorporated everything under Touchpoints.
Okay.
So everything is a part of Touchpoint. So we call everything as a Touchpoint now.
Okay, which is a number above 98,000 so far. And currently you have a tie-up only with 3 states, Uttar Pradesh, Punjab and West Bengal.
And Karnataka.
Okay, so 4 states now,
Correct.
Karnataka. Okay. And when it comes to bidding for the other states, when do these tenders come up? What is the competition like? What would your market share be?
So see, model is evolving, in every state there's a different kind of a model. We want to stick to the model that we have, upfront collection of cash from the citizens, focus on our EBITDA margins, provide, there should be volume, there should be a demand, in that area, exclusivity. So we are seeing, for example, we started working on land record registration recently in West Bengal. There are multiple other states that have the same problem, wherein they have a big population that needs these kind of services. They are planning to outsource, so we are talking to them. So we see that in the next few months, next years, there are multiple states that we want to work on. There are multiple tenders that are going to come out that we want to participate in. And also not only India, we see, as when we started BLS International, we started from India, wherein we worked for one of the foreign embassies in Delhi, and then we started expanding abroad. Same thing we see in the future. We want to first capture the Indian market because it is part of Digital India. If you see the government's initiative of Digital India, we are essentially providing digital services to the rural unbanked population across. We are making them part of the financial inclusion. So maybe in the future we see this model also going about.
You look at international expansion. I'll come to that. But particularly out of the 4 states in Punjab, they had terminated the master services agreement. What happened? What went wrong?
So first of all, it's a government tender. There's a rebid.
Did it just expire?
Correct. It's expired. Nothing is terminated. So it's any government tender that you bid lasts for a duration of the contract, and then after 5 years, that was a five years contract, and then after that you have again an opportunity to rebid for that contract. Okay. So it is up to you if you want to go minimum below your EBITDA margin. So for us, it is very clear. We see this company growing on a sustained long-term basis through different modes. I will explain you more about it later. So we know business is out there. As long whatever contracts you take, you perform them well.
You want them at the right margins.
You want them at the right margins. You want you want everyone to benefit.
Sure.
So that is why
this revenue contribution of e-governance has dropped. In FY23, it was 34%. It's come down to 28% in H1. What's the reason for that?
So main reason is the revenue from our bank business correspondent business has increased, over the last 6 months.
So is BC or business correspondent your fastest growing segment?
I would say last 1 year, because we acquired this company, that has become de facto the fastest growing segment. Okay. But I see major growth also coming from the e-governance sector. If you talk about other states that we're talking to, or other kind of services in the existing states that we are working for, the model is phenomenal. The government is very happy. Citizens are very happy. They're getting.
So in the last 3 years, say FY21 to FY23, you said business correspondent grew by 150%.
Overall revenue grew by 150%.
Okay, can you give us the breakup of the 3 segments?
I think probably the 3 segments, 66% comes from business correspondent, 24% comes from e-governance, and rest 5%, which we recently started, comes from assisted e-services. So I would say that business grew accordingly in those lines.
And are the margins comparable across the three lines? 14%?
I would say right now the margins are pretty similar, but definitely the third segment, assisted e-services, that I would like to talk about, margins are more in that segment. And, basically the model is that, we have these 4 lakh people that come to our centers every day across 90 plus thousand touch
Why
points.
not offer them more than banking services?
Correct.
And
so we, these customers are asking for different kind of services. So we are planning to doing cross-selling and upselling of different services like insurance products, bank KYCs, even companies are asking us if you can help opening on demat accounts. These customers are already coming to you. So definitely assisted e-service, the model is also transaction based money that we get, also registration fees for impaneling these registration to our merchant partners. We charge certain commission. So definitely the model is very good, and we see over the years, getting more revenue, more profitability from the existing customer base. So definitely revenue margin as an overall kitty will increase.
so it's basically cross-selling and providing them other services. Now coming to the objects of the issue, you have outlined 28-29 crore for acquisitions. Your previous acquisitions like ZMPL, etc., were much larger in size. I remember you'd spent close to more than 100 crores?
Yes,
a little more than
35, 140 crores.
Yeah, more than 100 crore. So here you've outlined a little less amount.
Correct.
So what is the thought process on acquisitions and inorganic moves?
So if you talk about the money that we're planning to raise, we're planning to raise around 300 odd crores. That is all fresh equity, fresh capital that will come into the company. BLS International will continue to be a promoter of the company. So the use of that money is divided into 4 segments. First, we have divided that we'll use this money for technological advancement, technological improvement of our existing infrastructure and developing new capabilities. All these businesses are, tech-enabled. We are a tech-enabled digital service provider. So all these businesses, 90,000 plus touch points, are based on technology. So I think major chunk around 90 odd crores we'll be using in that. Next is that, we are planning to establish BLS stores, 1,000 odd BLS stores across these touch points. We want to invest into, starting more products and services. I would explain you services. And
so what's the difference in a BLS touch point and a BLS store?
So BLS touch points right now could be the touch points offering banking correspondent services, offering e-governance services for different stores or different states. Now what we want to start is, we've already done pilots, is that as we explained that we are having this footfall of customers who are in need of different kind of products and services. So our objective is that we brand 1,000 of these touch points where we know there's a big traction as BLS stores, there's uniformity in terms of the infrastructure, in terms of the facility, and we start offering products and services. We've already started some pilots. We are seeing good amount of traction. Products could be as things as electronic products, TVs or water purifiers. We have tied up with different companies. There is no investment in buying them. The company directly supplies them through our, supply chain. Services could be insurance products, bank KYCs. Or
so you will also retail in these BLS stores?
No, the objective right now is to do products and services. Maybe in the future this could start, because major advantage for us is the footfall. So because we have exclusive contracts with banks, with states, wherein people come to you. So
but you want to provide more than the 3 services that you're already providing in the BLS stores.
Correct. So our objective is, as this model evolves, our main objective first, 70% of my focus or our company's focus is in getting more contracts, more footfall across the spectrum. So people come into you for a core service, and then how more services that they require from other places, if they're already coming to you, how you can upsell and cross-sell, and that will really lead to an increase in value.
So what would be the offerings that a BLS store will have, which a BLS touch point will not have?
I think, for example, products, if you're talking about TVs, water purifier, different kind of products, e-bikes, what customer wants, those kind of things will be available in product BLS store, different kind of services that are not available right now in the BLS touch points. We'll have probably people coming in. So coming back to my point of the investments, out of the BLS stores, technological advancement, also the acquisition, we have earmarked this much amount of money, but there is another segment called general corporate purposes that can also be used for acquisitions. And our objective is obviously to do bigger acquisitions than the money that is earmarked, and the money that is generated from profits, in the next few years will also, we feel that, able to sustain the acquisition.
So BLS International is a very cash-rich company. How much of that cash is coming into BLS E-services, or what's the cash in the books right now?
So BLS International, as we've been speaking, we started 15 years back, and the amount of cash that we generated at one point, it became more than 700 odd crores, and we've already done 2 acquisitions from then. Third acquisition that we just announced of 50 million euros, iData, that is going to do that 2022 a calendar year, they did a revenue of around 200 crores and a EBITDA of around 100 crores. So money, 50 million euro will be utilized in that. So our strategy was to keep both these entities separate,
So is there any cash which goes from BLS International?
No. So this company is generating its own profit.
And what would the cash in BLS E-services be?
I'm not exactly sure the amount, but it would be upwards of 40-50 crores.
Okay.
But our objective is that the money that we are earning in BLS International, we want to utilize that for the growth of
BLS
that
International,
company. Like we have done this acquisition also. BLS E-services, whatever money we raise or the profits we earn, we want to utilize in the growth of that company, because we see big potential of growth in both the companies.
Okay, fair enough. The financials of the company, you've grown very smartly. In FY21, your revenue was 65 crore. It's gone up to 243 crore in FY23. What's the growth rate that you can guide?
See, if you talk about FY21 and 23, we've definitely grown more than 100% in revenue and 157% in EBITDA. If you talk about 6 months, this September till September this year, we've already done a revenue of around 156 crores and a EBITDA of around 23 crores compared to full year last year of 36 crores. So there already has been some growth, coming in. I would say more than 20, 30, 40% that is coming from last year to these 6 months. So definitely going forward after the IPO, the money that will be utilized is essentially growth capital.
It's all growth capital.
So we are going to, spend all that money in growing the business, sustainably growing that business, with good returns. So definitely, going forward, this company, the base is right now small. If you see BLS International, we've been growing quite good. So this business also, we expect good growth coming in.
Okay, one final question then. When do you think you'll be able to go global?
I think for us, we started BLS International in the year 2008. We went global 2 years, 2010. This business, because India growth story right now is the most growing story across the world. The kind of people there are, the kind of money that they have, in different parts of India, in rural areas, in semi-urban areas, the consumption is improving. So definitely we would want to sustain and grow profitably in India first. And definitely parallelly, we are looking at, foreign geographies in Southeast Asian countries or African countries or even European and American economies, wherein they have still not outsourced many things like driving licenses, etc. So we are parallelly looking at both the angles, but right now the concentration is India, because we know the India growth story is huge and we want to be part of it.
But do you think in the next 3 years you will have a footprint abroad?
Definitely, we are already an international company. The parent company is international. We are now, after this acquisition, before we were in 64 countries, now we're in 70 plus countries. So we have that leeway. We have people, we have relationships with those governments. We are working them. They trust us. They know that whatever work we take, we perform and deliver. So definitely we will be offering these services that we are doing within India to them, and see if there's an opportunity. But we want to grow in a sustainable manner, and we want this company to prosper in the coming years.
Shikhar, thank you very, very much for joining in and talking to us on IPO KYC. Thank you.
So
All the best.
Thank you.